Silva. I now move my attention to Dr. Tilak Siyambalapitiya, international energy consultant. Dr. Siyambalapitiya, right now Sri Lanka is moving on an upward trajectory as far as building apartments are concerned. You have many apartments that are being built, and you have, it's like a competition in Sri Lanka, who builds the tallest building. Now there is another question mark. First question is, where is the garbage really going to be dumped, and what is the waste management process that is going to be implemented? We discussed this 2 weeks ago. It was very clear that the government is yet to have a plan on that premise. However, a plan is going to be implemented in the next 2.5 years, and when that comes through, there would be a change of government, or the same government would be taking over and be running the country again. So now there is a problem with regard to the energy sector of the country. Where is the power going to be pumped to these buildings that are going to be coming up? Who is going to be providing power? Where are they going to source it?
There is an underlying reality when you look at the sales data. The sales to commercial sector is increasing at a rate higher than the sales to manufacturing industry. So of course the sales to households are also increasing. So as a result of this, we see very significant changes in the hour-to-hour consumption of electricity. In fact, somewhat of a favorable change. The daytime electricity consumption has increased compared with what we had several years ago on relative terms. So of course these apartments coming in and commercial buildings coming in also is very clearly indicated by the growth figures of last year, which are almost, they are still not published, but the sales growth is touching 10% with the interim data. So to manage a 10% growth in electricity consumption, you can imagine that we need to, Sri Lanka has about 3,500 megawatt of capacity. We need to build 300 to 350 megawatt of new capacity every year if a 10% sales growth is sustained, or at least 250 megawatt every year, or which means one Sampur every other year. And we are not doing that. What are we doing? We are destroying all the plants that were there, and then changing the decisions and starting everything anew.
But that was the right decision for Sri Lanka. There was climate change issues that cropped up with regard to the Sampur coal power plant that was being built. It was an issue that was brought forward by many environmentalists concerned, Dr. Siyambalapitiya, and as a result of that, the construction of the coal power plant stopped.
Well, one has to see whether how much Sri Lankans are responsible for climate change. A Sri Lankan uses 600 units of electricity for everything: household use, commercial and industrial activity. Right at the top of the league are the Norwegians, 25,000 units of electricity per person per year. India is at 750, USA is at 10,000 per person per year, and Sri Lanka is using 600. So who are the people who are responsible for climate change? Is it Sri Lankans or somebody else?
We did sign an agreement in Copenhagen a few years ago saying that Sri Lankan emissions would be very less, Dr. Siyambalapitiya, if you recollect.
They are based on nationally determined targets. We never said that we will not build this power plant and that power plant. They are based on nationally determined targets. So what Sri Lanka should have is a balanced and mixed approach, so which will give a reasonable place for new renewable energy, which will ensure that we will meet our green credentials, but at the same time not forgetting the fact that we are at a very low level of consumption. In fact, when you look at the statistics, among the countries that are within the 3,000 to 4,000 per capita GDP range, Sri Lanka has the best energy efficiency. Sri Lanka has the best energy efficiency in terms of economic output for a unit of energy that we use. So therefore we should not be ashamed to use a little bit more energy to develop our economy, and also to use that energy from a cheaper source. And you know very well that you cannot run this program if we had only solar power. Can we?
Probably the answer is no, because that is why
then how should we get that electricity to run these lights in the studio at this time of the day?
But we have a coal power plant that has been built and which is not functioning for maximum capacity as well.
Well,
Dr.
yes, there are issues. That is because of the approach.
If that is the case, the approach has to be, the problem has to be arrested and then move forward to the next level.
Yes, but of course, of course, problems have to be arrested and new power plants also have to be built. Of course, that is because the one and only power plant we have is not performing as it should. But having said that, 50% of this electricity is coming from that power plant, the so-called very bad power plant. Is providing 50% of electricity at the moment.
But at the end of the day, that's not the case. The problem here at the moment is to ensure that Sri Lanka has the right energy policy at the moment. And you very well clearly stated before, Dr. Siyambalapitiya, we don't have a proper energy policy.
No, we do have an energy policy. There is a parliament table gazetted energy policy that is under revision at the moment. Sri Lanka is one of the few countries that always had a written down approved energy policy for the last 20 years, and the policy of 2006, if you look at it now, most of those elements have been implemented, right? So it's not a country that has no policy or no plan. The only problem is that when it comes to implementation, everybody becomes an energy policy maker, everybody wants to be a decision maker. What is the reason? Because energy investments are very large and everybody wants to be the person who makes the decision on power plants.